Middleton comforts a young boy whose father was killed in Afghanistan and says it's very special that he's wearing Daddy's 3 medals as she and Prince William make video calls to mark Remembrance Week. Prince William has told armed forces personnel serving overseas that he's grateful for the important job they're doing, while Kate Middleton comforted a young boy whose father was killed in Afghanistan as they joined video calls to mark Remembrance Week. The Duke and Duchess Cambridge, both 38, who paid their respects to Britain's war dead at the Cenotaph on Sunday, have carried out video calls with servicemen and women currently serving overseas, and with families of armed forces personnel who lost their lives, to hear more about what remembrance means to them. Yesterday, Kate Middleton spoke to armed forces families who have lost loved ones to hear how they pay tribute to those they have lost, and about the impact that Remembrance Week has for them. The mother of 3, who donned a vintage-inspired £79 ivory and black blouse by Ghost, also heard more about the support that they receive from members of the armed forces community, including other bereaved families, and the help that is provided by the Royal British Legion. The Duchess of Cambridge spoke to Charlton Taylor, 11, from Rhyl, Wales, whose father was killed in action in Afghanistan in 2010, who was wearing 3 medals that belonged to Royal Marine Michael Taylor. The royal, who joined the video call from Kensington Palace, asked Charlton to tell her about the medals, asking, "Are those your daddy's medals?" "Wow." The young boy, dressed in a smart jacket and tie, told her one was for his service, another was for his tour of Afghanistan and the other for Iraq. "It's very special that you're wearing them," she told him. The Duchess went on to ask him if he would tell her a little bit about his father, but laughed when he said he could not remember much, adding, "I think Mum would explain it best. You take the floor, Mum." Charlton's mother, Sonia Fleming, described how her husband had died when Charlton was just 10 months old and her other sons were 11 and 13. "Probably the hardest thing is doing it on your own," she admitted. But Charlton told Kate that he liked to look at photographs of his father and hear stories about him, which she replied was amazing. The Duchess chatted to the families of armed forces personnel who have lost their lives, many of whom are supported by the Royal British Legion. The Legion provides lifelong support to anyone who has served with the British Armed Forces and their families. They also give support to families who have been bereaved, including help with funeral costs, ongoing emotional support and connecting people to specialist services such as bereavement counseling or mental health support. Kate told the women, "Sadly, not everybody gets to see that or even actually understand the role they play for families such as yourselves. It has such a big impact, particularly at such tragic times." Chantel Wynne, from Tamworth, was widowed in 2015 when her husband Ryan took his own life after struggling for years with PTSD following a posting in Afghanistan, where he worked for 6 months as a medic in the Territorial Army. The couple had been together since they were 16 and were married for 17 years. They had 2 daughters, Rosie and Daisy. Mrs. Wynne told the Duchess, "Obviously, this time of year is always really bad, and with his anniversary the day before Remembrance Day, this week is really significant. But we plod on and we've got family who support us so we get through." Mrs. Wynne said she had no idea what the Royal British Legion really did until she needed them in her hour of need, revealing that it had provided crucial financial and emotional support. "You wear a poppy and you put your donation in, but I didn't know where the donations went," she said. "But now, I know exactly where those donations go to." When the Duchess asked Mrs. Wynne if her husband had been open with his mental health, she replied, "He would never ever talk about it. The only time he would ever talk about it was every November when he felt like he was back in the war. Bonfire night was just a no-go in our house because he thought that those fireworks were him back in the war zone. He never really had problems until that October, and then it was literally like being hit by a brick wall." Kate, who had a poppy pinned to the black collar of her white blouse and was surrounded by family photographs in Kensington Palace for the call, told the ladies, "I'm sure you spend your time every day remembering your loved ones, but it's so important that the nation comes together and really spends time thinking about those who have lost their lives and the families that have been impacted." It's been a real honor to speak to all of you, and I think I speak for the whole nation when I say just how proud you should be of your loved ones, and for the sacrifice and the bravery that they've shown. I'll certainly be thinking of you this difficult week and will be for many years to come. Last Thursday, Prince William spoke to deployed representatives from the Royal Navy, the Army and the Royal Air Force. Those on the call spoke to the royal about the important role that remembrance plays in their lives, allowing them to remember those who have lost their lives, and to reflect upon the physical and mental sacrifices that those in the armed forces continue to make for their country. The Duke of Cambridge also heard more about their experiences of being stationed overseas, the operational duties that they are carrying out, including the training of local military forces and the protection of international shipping routes, and the work that is being done to support the physical and mental health of those on deployment. Around 11,000 members of British Armed Forces personnel are currently deployed on operations around the world, from North America to the Gulf, in order to protect communities across the globe and promote the interests of the UK abroad. During the call, Prince William spoke to heroes serving in Somalia, Qatar and the Gulf and said, "I hope that you know that we are still thinking about all of you and the important job you're all doing, and that everyone is very grateful. I hope that over Remembrance Sunday we can remind people just how committed and determined, and how brilliant all the people we have in the forces are around the world. People don't necessarily realize how committed and scattered the British Army forces are around the world. It is quite impressive, just a little snapshot of you three here in important areas of the globe where we are committed to doing our best and making a difference. It is interesting at Remembrance to have that time to reflect on all the roles that you guys are playing and British forces are committed to." The Duke of Cambridge joked with leading physical instructor Damon Bell about his £40 million drugs bust while serving on HMS Iron Duke in 2008. The Navy fitness instructor described how the crew on board HMS Montrose had been keeping up spirits after being banned from shore leave due to COVID-19 in the Gulf. And while patrolling the Straits of Hormuz, the frigate intercepted and seized more than 450 kilograms of methamphetamine from smugglers last month. He said, "Only half of what you got on Iron Duke, but still nonetheless very good." Prince William, who flew a Lynx chopper to hunt down smugglers with £40 million of cocaine while serving in the Caribbean 14 years ago, said, "I wasn't going to bring it up, but I'm glad that's still being talked about." The crew, who are taking part in Operation Kipian to make sure the Gulf is safe for shipping, held a Remembrance Day parade on Sunday on flight deck and regularly have on-board events to keep up morale and help mental health. William said, "I remember being beasted by people like you, Damon, on the Iron Duke. The on-deck PT was always quite a fun afternoon. I think after a number of lockdowns I might need your PT skills to help get back into shape again." Damon replied, "Always on the end of a Zoom call, sir, whenever you're ready." Corporal Jawan Kumar Thapa of the Queen's Gurkha Signals, who has spent 3 months on Operation Tangam training local military forces against al-Shabaab extremists in Somalia, described how his father and grandfather had served in Gurkha regiments for the British Army. William said, "You followed in a very proud history. We are very grateful for all the hard work and wonderful history that we have had with the Gurkhas. You have a fearsome reputation around the world." Flight Sergeant Gemma Thompson, from RAF Wyton, spoke from her base in Qatar where Brits are deployed to tackle Daesh for Operation Shader. The mum of two, whose eldest was born 6 years ago on Remembrance Day, described why the annual ceremony was so vital. William added, "To be born on Remembrance Sunday is a very special birthday," to which Gemma responded, "It makes Remembrance that little bit special." She responded, "It is so much more than just physical sacrifices but also small sacrifices people continue to make. Remembrance, other than my son, is a very important time. Remembrance is so much bigger than myself is something I articulate to my son when I'm making him lay a wreath on his birthday. It's important to know there are things much bigger than you." She went on to say more in the armed forces is being done to support the mental health of servicemen and women. "There is a culture shift and less of a stigma," she added. The Duke of Cambridge also asked about Gemma's 6-year-old learning to lay a wreath on his birthday and the party afterwards. "Got to get the balance of having a party and laying a wreath, one quite solemn, one quite chaotic," he said. After Gemma described how much cake her son eats, the heir to the throne replied, "Then the sugar kicks in and it's all chaos after that." Gemma replied, "Oh, you know." Prince William, who is father of George, 7, Charlotte, 5, and 2-year-old Louis, nodded and smiled and said, "Yeah, I know."